What up guys, Jet Shells here and welcome back to World of Tanks. We're doing something a little bit different today. A lot of times when I'm releasing videos and I read through the comments, a lot of times you guys ask questions like, do I prefer the T-71 or the Walker Bulldog? Do I prefer using the autoloader or the single shot on the Bulldog? And either or type questions like that. And it seems that whenever I release a video on the WZ-131, that a lot of you guys, I shouldn't say a lot of you guys, but often someone will ask which gun is better to use on the WZ-131, the 85mm or the 100mm. So that is what we are going to be looking at today in today's video. We're going to be looking at the 85mm and the 100mm and the strengths and weaknesses of each gun and which types of situations each gun is better to use in. So let's just dive into the stats real quick here. Right away with the damage per minute, the 85mm already has a huge advantage over the 100mm. The 85mm has 2,275 damage per minute. The 100mm has 1,884. So that's a pretty significant difference, almost 400 damage per minute difference there. The aim time for the 85mm is also better at 2.21 seconds compared to the 100mm's 2.49 seconds aim time. The accuracy of both guns is not significantly different. The 85mm has 0.35 accuracy, where the 100mm has 0.36. So it's slightly better on the 85mm, but not by a lot. The 85mm also is slightly more accurate during turret traverse at 0.1 compared to the 100mm's 0.12. And the 85mm is quicker to re-engage its targets. The dispersion after firing on the 85mm is 3.5 compared to the 100mm's 4.00. And when I say dispersion after firing, that refers to the bloom of your reticle after you fire. And then we come to a part where the 100mm is actually better than the 85mm with regards to penetration. The 85mm has 159mm of penetration with AP, 230mm of penetration with heat ammunition, and 43mm of penetration with HE. The 100mm has 181 millimeters of penetration with its AP rounds, so that's already significantly better than the 85. 241mm of penetration with APCR ammo, which is marginally better than the heat ammunition on the 85mm. And it has 50mm of penetration with its HE rounds, which is also slightly better than the 43mm of penetration on the 85mm. The alpha damage for both guns here, the 85mm has 200 damage per shot, where the 100mm has 250 damage per shot. And the reload time, which of course coincides with the damage per minute, is 5.2 seconds for the 85mm and 7.96 seconds for the 100mm. And of course those reload times are base reload times. Those can be improved with vents and rammer and crew skills like Brothers in Arms. Also, lastly, one particular stat that a lot of people don't think of when they're thinking on and they're trying to decide between 2 viable or 3 viable gun choices on any particular tank is that different guns have different weights. And depending on how heavy your tank is to begin with, and the horsepower that you're starting out with, sometimes the different gun choices will affect the horsepower to ton ratio slightly or significantly. And on the WZ-131, if you're using the 85mm, you have a 24.94 horsepower to ton ratio. And if you're using the 100mm gun, which is a heavier gun, you have a 24.29 horsepower to ton ratio. So that is a moderate drop in horsepower to ton ratio. And over the course of me playing the WZ-131 with 100mm, I did notice the difference in the responsiveness and the acceleration of the tank using the heavier gun. You're a little bit more sluggish, and it takes longer to retreat from a flank or get to a position where you can advance and get shots on the enemy if you're attacking or flanking any particular tank. So that is something to keep in mind if you are thinking about using the 100mm. But enough talking about stats. Let's dive into some gameplay and you guys can see these two guns in action. Alright, so diving into the first game that I'm going to show you guys today is my WZ-131 on Swamp. In a tier 9 game, although it's not too bad of a tier 9 game. There's only 3 tier 9s on each side. And it's mostly a tier 8 game with a few bottom tier scouts thrown in, which I am one of. So let's just get started. And in this first game, I am using the 100mm. I preload an APCR round just because of habit's sake. No particular reason. I honestly probably don't need it for the likely first shot that I'm going to get, but I don't know. I'm kind of a creature of habit. I like to make sure that my first shot does damage. I just think that early damage is very important. And of course, we're probably going to waste it on this T-37 right here, which I absolutely don't need it for. Holding my shot to see if he was about to turn around or not, but he wasn't. And he crested up, very aggressive, and because I fired, I need to get away and into cover and use this ridge line. There you see the slower aim time there and the dispersion after moving. I tried to take a snapshot on the T-29 because he was aiming at me. And now we have really nice sustained shots on this T-29 and FV-201, although I'm focusing pretty exclusively on the T-29 because I don't want to spread my damage around the targets and have all their guns still in the fight. I want to try and kill some of these targets before they get into cover. And you can really feel the slower reload of the 100mm here. You'll see when I show you the next game on the 85mm, you'll have an idea of how much faster the 85mm reloads. Somehow we managed to magically bounce off of the T-37 with 181mm of penetration. We must have clipped the very edge of his tank or something. Now the FV-201 is peeking off the south side of the hill there. Wasn't sure if I was still spotted or not. I probably was from the RU there, which is why he was still able to see me. So a misplay right there. But you really see the gun handling there, the 100mm. It takes a little bit longer to aim, and I wasn't able to put a shot of damage in that FV when he was peeking on that corner. Now I noticed that an RU-251 is being really aggressive underneath our ridge here. Kind of a misplay right here, but I made it with the analysis that looking on the mini-map there, a lot of the enemy tanks are in the south, and both of their two of their tank destroyers are there, so it was likely that not very many guns were on the H-line ridge of the enemy team. Taking our time to aim in, making sure the shot will place accurately. And we're able to track the FV-201. I always want to say FV-4005 or 183 because that's usually what FV I'm talking about when I'm running into those kinds of tanks. But anyway, now that we've completely killed out the northeast flank and we killed out all the stragglers in the middle, now it's time to do our own flanking and come up behind the enemy's position and start putting pressure on them. And now we're catching out a T-28 Prot out in the open. You can see there the nice thing about the 100mm is it does a lot of alpha damage. And also something that I didn't talk about in the gun stats, as I just didn't have enough room for it, is the 100mm is more likely to do module damage per shot. Of course, that's offset by the fact that you're doing less shots of damage to your targets because it's slower reload. We decided to load an HE shell there because we knew we were going to be shooting at the back of a stir meal, and we do a nice chunk of 343. And you'll see here the benefit of the 100mm over the 85mm. I would be having semi-trouble penning the side of an IS-3. I know I basically have him more or less 90 degrees to me, but it's IS-3A and IS-3 side armor. The tracks are notorious for eating shells, and that extra 20 or so pen really helps me doing damage, making sure that I go through that and pen. Unfortunate that we don't do some damage with our second shot there, but I was trying to track the T-30 and do damage at the same time, but we're able to get some assistance damage out of it at least. And the M41 Bulldog finishes off the T-10. So a pretty quick game here on Swamp in the WZ-131 using the 100mm. But hopefully this game gave you guys an idea on the gun handling and the performance of it. I definitely felt the sluggishness, or I should say more sluggishness of the horsepower to ton ratio in this game, particularly on Swamp, where the terrain, you're driving over a lot of soft terrain and terrain that isn't level, like rises and hills and whatnot. But it's not a huge handicap or anything, but it is a marginal difference to keep in mind when you're playing with the 100mm. The 100mm, you definitely want to try and keep your enemies at arm's reach, so to say, more often. You don't have the DPM to out-brawl certain tanks. Like, for instance, if that RU-251 decided he wanted to engage me, obviously he would already have an advantage in fighting me with DPM, and he's starting with slightly higher HP, but he would probably be able to kill me before I put my third shot into him even. Maybe I would be able to put 3 shots into him, but I would definitely be able to put maybe 4 or 5 shots in with the 85mm, depending on if he missed any of his shots or not, of course. But that's all hypothetical. The M41 Walker Bulldog on my team actually had a really nice huge game too, and a shout out to him. We cleaned up pretty heavily on the northeast flank together, and we both got some nice flanking damage on the end after we crossed over the enemy ridge to the south. But enough of that. Let me show you guys the endgame results here for this game on Swamp, and then we'll dive into the second game today on Khmelevsky using the 85mm. Alright, so here we are in the second game I'm going to show you guys today on Khmelevsky using the 85mm on the WZ-131. And it's a really nice matchup, Tier 8 game, and not even really a full Tier 8 game at that. There's only 3 Tier 8s on each side, so this is almost God matchmaking for this tank. I'm a really powerful tank, and I need to make sure that I do damage and not so much vision, especially on a map like Khmelevsky. The main reason I show you this guy's game is just to show you guys not so much the scoutingness of the WZ-131, but obviously since we're talking about the different guns, I wanted to show you guys how the 85mm performs in a game. So let's just get started. Now, obviously, keeping in mind that's one of the things about the 85 millimeter compared to the 100 millimeter. The tiering doesn't matter as much if you get into higher tier games with 100 millimeter, because you have that higher base pen, right? And also you have a slightly better premium round pen. When you're forced to engage certain targets frontally, especially on a corridor street map like Himmelsdorf, the 85 millimeters pen will be a slightly more of a liability to you, and the overall performance of how many shots that you pen is obviously dependent on the tiering of the game that you get into, of course. But that's nothing new. That is pretty common for any tank. The higher tier you are, the higher influence you can have on the battle with your gun. So right now we're just posting up here in G3 to get some cross shots into the castle area. And we got a T-20 right here that's overcommitted. And you get a really good idea for the rate of fire here of the 85 millimeter. We're able to put 3 shots into him before he decides to go back and cover. The enemy VK-2801 there is going full YOLO there, and I didn't notice. I was trying to figure out how I got spotted, and then I noticed that he crossed our G-line street. Not too worried about killing him there, as the Oho and the Comet and other of my teammates are down there to take care of him. But unfortunately, our VK-4502A and FV-4000-202 took a really bad line in attacking the castle area. You really don't want to flank on the outside of the castle area early, since it's very likely that the enemy team has snipers in their opposing mirror location in D3 and D4, just like where I'm sitting. So right now I'm realizing that I'm not going to get any more shots in on the castle area, so I've decided where to relocate to next. Make a really bad move right there. I drove in front of the 5916's gun, where I just could have driven around behind him, and I took a shot at team damage for it. Hit a shot on the move with the Rudy, and now I'm flanking the EZ-8 there, but the AT-8 takes him out before I can wrap around the corner. Now I have to help kill out these tanks on the 1-2 line track area before the enemy tanks on the hill are able to come down off the hill and start influencing the battle. So we're on a clock here. Really bad shot there, not realizing about the indestructible shack there on the cap circle. But you got an idea. I wouldn't have been able to put 2 shots in there, one into the Japanese Tiger, one into the SU, in the time that it would have taken for the 100mm to reload. I probably would have only have gotten 1 shot in. The SU 122-44 turns for me, so I have to think about staying in cover. I know the SU-100Y is in the train station right to my right, but I'm not too worried about him. I'm keeping an eye on him on the mini-map, and if he decides to poke around to shoot me, I can put a shot into him and likely track him. The T-29 turns his turret for me, so I back off. And you see here the pen of the 85mm. We've actually bounced 2 of the shells that we shot at him. Not the easiest angle to pen him. The American tank side armor is pretty weak, but because of how he was wedged there on the edge of the map, his side armor was slightly angled. We probably would have penned most of our shots with the 100mm, but unfortunately we bounced 3 of the 5 shells that we fired at the T-29, and it took 2 more shells to kill him. Also, a really good example of the rate of fire of the 85mm right there, able to put a shot of damage into the SU-100Y and a shot of damage into the Lorraine Arty, where the reload time of the 100mm wouldn't have allowed us to do that. Now we're just in a real pickle here. I'm waiting for my team to help me out here a little bit. I really don't want to take a shot of damage from the SU-100Y. But it is what it is, I guess. And then I noticed that he's not facing me, so I'm being really careful how I peek around this corner, trying to make sure that the arty isn't turned ready to shotgun me. Unfortunately, the IS-6 there puts a shot into us. We noticed that the SU-100 fired there, so we stopped for a second to put a shot into him, and our comment is able to take him out. And now we're just doing a rolling retreat. We have to run away from the IS-3 and IS-6 and A-44. They have armor, they have HP, they have alpha, and we're already outgunned as far as tiering. So we can't fight that frontally. Unfortunately, our team didn't do very well. They didn't make very good positioning choices during the course of the battle. I myself probably took too long in deciding to help kill out the 1-2 lines after seeing how many enemy tanks were on the hill. But I did the best I could with trying to do that so our team would have a chance to win. And now we're seeing me loading some heat ammunition here. The heat has a 230 millimeters of penetration once again, but it's something that I have to load now because I'm going to be shooting at the front of heavily armored Russian heavies. So even the back of the KV-5. There you see the weakness of the heat ammunition getting absorbed by tracks, so I go for the back of the turret instead. Unfortunately, the turret is angled a little bit there, so we bounce. But I would actually have a hard time penning this KV-5 even from the back with normal AP. But luckily our last shot there sets him on fire. We actually wouldn't have been able to kill him if we hadn't have set him on fire, because he would have driven into cover before we would have reloaded, so that was nice. And now we're just in a really bad situation just because our team didn't do a whole lot of damage in the game. We're fighting really healthy 2 tier 8 heavy tanks, and it's going to be a tough game to win at this point. But in this game, I think you get a really good sense of the performance of the 85mm. It's DPM. And unfortunately, we run smack dab into an IS-6, and that I wasn't expecting, and he turns and kills us. And unfortunately, he rolls a little bit high with his gun. The IS-6 alpha damage is 390, and we had 414. HP, but I wasn't really planning on taking that shot to begin with. I was going to assume that the IS-6 was already over there on the 1-2 lines somewhere with his IS-3 platoon mate, but he was skulking around here on completely the opposite side of the map and not working with his platoon mate at all. So I get into those kind of situations sometimes where I pay the price basing on thinking that the enemy is going to do something, you know, semi-teamwork oriented, and they end up just doing their own thing, and I end up getting caught out. And it was really hard to predict that because Himmelsdorf is a pretty close quarters map, and it's hard to get vision on the enemy from range, so you can make good choices on where you're going to position yourself. So I couldn't see the IS-6 coming, and I died. And we end up losing this game. The Comet over here engages the IS-6 as well, and he's unable to run away in time before the IS-6 kills him. So unfortunately, this game was a loss, but I was able to get courageous resistance bonus because of the amount that I contributed to the team. Which is nice. So this was turns out to be an ace tanker for me. But you get a really good idea of the weaknesses and the strengths of both the 100mm and the 85mm from these two games. The 100mm definitely a better early game gun, just because of its higher pen and slightly better alpha. It is able to take advantage of limited lanes and opportunities to shoot on targets, but its weakness is when you have sustained fire opportunities or situations where the enemy is exposed for a long period of time. The dramatic drop in DPM really hurts you a lot. So as far as which gun I think is best to use, the 85 millimeter, like I said before, I personally prefer. I don't think there's anything like terrible or bad about using the 100 millimeter. You can use the 100 millimeter as long as you understand that it's not a dogfighting gun. It's a more conservative gun, keeping the enemy further away from you and using that pen and alpha to your advantage. Overall, stat to stat, I think the 85 millimeter is the better gun, in spite of preference. But of course, if the 100 millimeter is the kind of gun that you like, of course you can use it. There isn't anything wrong with using it as long as you understand the limitations of it. And the 85 millimeter obviously has limitations of it. It's a base pen, and it's using heat as a premium round. So but I think the 85 millimeter is the better gun. It has better gun handling stats, slightly better accuracy, both stationary and on the move, better dispersion after firing, much better DPM, and I think it's just the overall better gun for my kind of play style. So the two guns on the WZ-131, the 85 millimeter and the 100 millimeter, based on play style and on their strengths and weaknesses. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and happy hunting.